This is insane. A streamer has scammed $500,000 off his fans. How, you ask? Well, through the wonderful world of cryptocurrency. And again, we're talking US dollars, not dollary dues, so that's a lot of money. And according to an article on the matter, yet another influencer is under fire this week after Coffeezilla broke a story exposing live streamer Poseidon for allegedly stealing over $500,000 from fans through his now abandoned crypto project CXCoin, a crypto fork that he set up in around 2 weeks. Which is wild. I just made a video the other day warning people about influencers and the crypto space. It's a very dangerous combination because it is such easy money for influencers. If they choose to go down that path, that is. And people will definitely sell their integrity for roughly $500,000. That's just how some humans are. But first up, who is Poseidon? Well, his real name is Paul, and he is an IRL streamer, which, if you're unaware, is a streamer whose content is them going out and interacting with the world, the exact opposite of what I do. I am a dude in a room, whereas Poseidon is a dude outside of a room. And he often just lives his daily life on stream, which I've got to be honest, it's not my kind of thing, but I do kind of get the appeal of it. Sort of like vicariously living through the experiences of others, but again, it's very much not my thing. In any case, I actually do know of Paul, because due to being a high-profile IRL streamer, he became rather infamous for being swatted on stream. In fact, he has even been given the unfortunate accolade of being known as the SWAT King. Because when you're streaming in public, it turns out people can figure out where you are. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. If you're at an airport, just maybe don't live stream it. Because in Paul's case, he got swatted here as someone called in a bomb threat at said airport. And it's just one of those times where you go, common sense apparently isn't so common. People are gonna be pricks, so maybe don't present them with such a ridiculously golden opportunity to engage in their prickery. So I actually felt kind of bad for Paul, well, up until now, I suppose, because another creator by the name of Coffeezilla recently exposed Mr. Poseidon in an interview. I mean, sort of. Like, it wasn't exactly a Frost versus Nixon style of exposing, because to be completely fair, Paul was very open about all of the really crappy things he did. And to be even more fair, Paul has been incredibly open about his scummy ambitions for quite some time now.
You're telling me I could create a CX coin and then people could buy it because I could say that the community is super strong, and then I could sell it in 10 seconds and make $10 million.
And yeah, as it turns out, Paul was right. I mean, 10 million, that was a bit ambitious, but hey, he did get 1/20th of that, so that's still good. It's an arse ton of money for sure. So he went on to create CX Coin, and if you want more details about this whole endeavor, I'll leave a link in the description of Coffeezilla's exposed video. It's well worth watching, but according to an article on the matter, the purpose of CX Coin was to create a long-term platform to allow streamers and content creators a safe and easy method of receiving support through cryptocurrencies along with its auto buyback system. ICE reportedly claimed repeatedly that the coin would be a long-term play, promising critics and supporters that there was no way he would pull the rug on this project, as the money was quote-unquote locked. And great, well, if he gave us his word, then I'm sure he won't do the bad things, right? And I guess it's probably just a crazy coincidence that very shortly after this currency launched, Paul bought a brand new Tesla automobile. Actually, do people still say automobile, or am I just old? Doesn't matter, because you know what never got old though? CX Coin. Despite the fact that Paul sold it as a long-term investment, this thing lasted a mighty 2 weeks before Paul, for reasons, decided to transfer all of the liquidity into another wallet, a more, how shall we say, personal wallet, which really killed any value that CX Coin has, effectively pulling the rug from this project, something which Paul very intriguingly and shockingly honestly admits to.
It looks like the coin got rugged. You know anything about that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, not rugged, but I mean...
Well, someone pulled all the liquidity out. That's a rug, right?
That would be a rug, yes.
And this is why you need to be super careful with the influencers that you choose to trust. And actually, being an IRL streamer, I imagine that Paul is capable of generating quite a bit more trust than most, due primarily to the fact that he lets people in on his daily life. Like, outside of what he does with gaming, the whole appeal of Paul as a streamer is just to hang out with him, become part of his life, like a sort of surrogate friendship. And you know, you tend to trust friends quite a bit. So if they tell you, hey friend, listen, I have an opportunity, the opportunity of a lifetime, and I want to let you in on it because we're friends, then I imagine a lot of people would be inclined to believe them. Now, with that said, each and every one of those scammed individuals are also very much responsible, particularly because Paul is on record on at least, and this is wild, he's on record on at least 2 occasions admitting to prior scams. According to Paul himself, these are his words, he ran a credit card phishing operation, as as well as an initiative that sounds very suspiciously like a Ponzi scheme. However, individual responsibility is something that Paul is keenly aware of and has used as a defense for his adoption of these many hundreds of thousands of dollars. In fact, he's even quoted in the article. Part of the responsibility is on them as well for putting too much emotion into it, Ice claimed, in defense of himself scamming his investors. Sometimes you have to look out for yourself. I don't know how else you want me to put it. You could say it in all of these different ways to make it sound as horrible as possible, and you know what? I could agree with you on some of those things. Those things that he just admitted to being horrible. I just don't like to put it in those specific ways, because that makes it sound like it was the intention from the start, which it wasn't. Now, admittedly, I am no investigative journalist. I can't even say the word, that's how much I'm not what that is. But we do have video evidence of the inception of this idea.
You're telling me I could create a CX coin and then people could buy it because I could say that the community is super strong, and then I could sell it in 10 seconds and make $10 million.
Which in retrospect is pretty damning, and puts us more in the, yeah, that probably was your intention from the start camp. But it's just such a scummy thing to do, and yes, I know that sounds obvious. And granted, he's not doing as well on YouTube as he used to, and he did get banned from Twitch for the whole airport business. But all of that aside, he's definitely not someone who should be in desperate need of quick cash. So there's a huge imbalance here because like 99% of his audience going to be regular working people without access to influencer level money. And with that in mind, he should just feel extra horrible for asking them to do something like this. For a personal example, I'm lucky enough to make a living off YouTube alone, and every now and then there's a sponsorship, which is nice. So I don't ask my audience for their hard-earned money on top of that. I do have a Patreon and I do operate channel memberships on my main channel, but that's for if people feel like they want to contribute. Almost all of which goes straight into equipment upgrades. In fact, pretty much everything in this office was bought with that donation money. But I don't advertise them because your views alone are enough to keep me going right now. But in any case, Paul was confronted on this as well.
I don't know if you're aware of the fact that your average fan has way less money than you. So you're just taking from poor people. Like, you understand that, right?
That is definitely not, that is not a good way to put it. That's a pretty shitty way to put it, my dude.
I think it's a pretty shitty thing to do.
And yeah, that's always a pretty bad defense. It's more or less admitting, yeah, you're right, but could you not say it like it is? In any case, according to Paul himself, he made about $300,000 and his developers took the other roughly $200,000. Now that $300,000, and you cannot make this up. Paul plans to use that $300,000 to invest in crypto. So the cycle just continues. Paul scams his audience and then potentially just throws all of that money into a much larger scale operation and gets scammed himself. But the thing about this situation is that it's not entirely unsalvageable, because I guess one of the key things about taking money is the idea that you can also return said money after having taken it. It's not at all impossible. But Paul's thoughts on that idea were not promising.
If you want the answer, yeah, I could give the money back. It is within my power. But I'm going to look out for myself and not do that. I don't like know what else to say. That's just the most honest answer.
And all in all, I find it amazing that there are no consequences for this kind of action. Although I guess really, what can you do? The whole value of crypto is that it's a decentralized currency, which means that right now people can more or less do whatever they want in this space without fear of repercussions, which is why you see so many influencers jumping into this space, because let's do some maths here. This crypto project took Paul about 2 weeks, according to himself, and the project made him around $300,000. And that's just with his audience. Quite frankly, if you look at his statistics, he's not a big influencer in the grand scheme of things. You know, on YouTube, he has under 750,000 subscribers and currently has a frankly sad 160,000 views a month. So we're not talking big numbers in the grand scheme of things. So imagine if an influencer with subscribers and views in the millions were to pull something like this, which they have. So we're talking 2 weeks of setup and potentially reaching Paul's original hyperbole goal of $10 million, because why not? It's just so unprecedentedly easy to take money from people who trust you in this day and age. And this is also why the crypto space has such a shockingly bad reputation amongst, I'm gonna go ahead and say all of humanity, which obviously extends into NFTs. This sort of behavior from Ice Poseidon is exactly why the mere mention of those 3 letters, I almost did too, but I saved it there, shouldn't have pointed it out. But this is why even the mention of those 3 letters, NFT, NFT is met with such vitriol upon announcement. For example, a couple of weeks ago, a voice actor named Troy Baker made an NFT partnership announcement with a group called Voiceverse NFTs, which instead of JPEGs of apes would provide NFT ownership of voices, which already sounds like that's a dystopia. I'm partnering with Voiceverse NFT to explore ways where together we might bring new tools to new creators to make new things, and allow everyone a chance to invest in the IPs they create. We all have a story to tell. You can hate, or you can create. What'll it be? Which is quite possibly one of the most monumentally idiotic things anyone has ever said on Twitter. And I say that being a part of the anime Twitter sphere. There is some ridiculous crap that happens in that space. But this tweet, man, Troy's tweet effectively calls anybody who disagrees with his decision as a hater. And not only that, but it actively invites them to respond with the whole what'll it be? And as it turns out, what it'll be is a gargantuan ratio. This tweet got 2.5 thousand likes, but almost 12,000 comments and a whopping 13,000 quote tweets, most of which can be summed up with this singular reply of, "You can create this." Now, to be fair, I know nothing of Troy or his motivations, because maybe, just maybe against all odds, he was trying to do something. I mean, I don't know what it would be, but something. It doesn't matter though, because simply being associated with an NFT or a new crypto coin gives an influencer the appearance of impropriety, because for every honest actor, there are 1,000 scammers. So to be fair, in Troy's situation, he may very well have been legitimate, but that also doesn't mean that the company he was partnering with was. And I say was because after the whole world piled onto him, he did pull out of the partnership and had this to say: "Thank you all for your feedback and patience. After careful consideration, I've decided not to continue the partnership with Voiceverse NFT." And I can tell you that the chances of there being any careful consideration here was close to zero. After that kind of reaction, he would have been clinically insane to continue with this endeavor. You may as well say goodbye to your entire career at that point. Anyway, I got slightly off topic there, but in conclusion, don't trust influencers, except for me. And even then, look, just be careful. I'm a pretty shifty guy.